Are you wondering how to use Matterport digital twins to enhance enterprise asset management? Leverage SimLab Simon to integrate IoT data task management and 3D visualization? Combine these tools with IBM Maximo to optimize maintenance and operational workflows? Stay tuned. Hi all, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. You're watching WGAN TV Live at 5, a podcast for digital twin creators shaping the future of real estate today. We have an awesome show for you. Matterport plus SimLab Simon plus IBM Maximo equals Maximo Vision for asset management. Our subject matter experts are SimLab Simon product owner and project manager Mikhail Shopa and IoT Asset Management Solutions Manager of Digital Industrial Transformation, Maciej Guzek. Mikhail and Maciej, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. It's great to be here today with you.
Thank you. Before we do a deep dive into IBM Maximo and how it integrates with Matterport and SimLab Simon, let's give our viewers a brief overview of SimLab Simon and IoT. Michael, let's start with SimLab Simon.
Okay, thank you, Dan, for the introduction. And once again, hello, everybody. And my name is Michael, and I'm the product owner in the SimLab and responsible for the Simon product, which is the layer of the Matterport, adding options for the IoT devices and asset management. And we are working with our product more than 5 years. I'm in the company 4 years, and I will be pleased to show you today how the Simon is working together with the Matterport digital twin solution and the IoT IBM Maximo integration together to combine all of those information into the one ecosystem with some very nice and very clear and intuitive interface of the digital twin and the virtual walkthrough.
Thank you, Michael. And we're not going to do a really deep dive right at this moment into SimLab, but I will point out for our viewers that we've done many shows with Michael about SimLab Simon. You can see those previous episodes at wgan.info/SimLab on WGAN. Maciej, for context for today's show, please tell our viewers about IoT.
Okay, so thank you. This is the first time that I have a chance to tell you a little bit about what we do. IoT in general is an engineering company focused on industry. Is it okay that I can share some slides with you right now, or shall I wait with that?
Let's wait until we get there,
okay.
but just take another moment at a top line to tell us about IoT.
Okay, so we are an engineering company working for industry customers, mainly focused on automation and robotics. And I'm representing the department which focuses on introducing IT to the plant floors, especially in terms of IT systems for asset management and work management.
And your relationship to IBM Maximo?
Yeah, we are authorized IBM partner. And what's more, we've authorized to build our own solutions, so to deliver our own systems based on IBM technology. One of them is IBM Maximo, which I would like to show you briefly today.
And your coverage area for IoT is this, I want to say you have 1,000+ employees. This is a large worldwide organization.
Yes, we are present from North America, US, Canada, up to China, through the whole Europe and Asia. As we work on the plant floors, on industry customers, we want to be just a company around the corner, to be close to our customers, to deliver our services, to deliver our solutions and be as close as possible. Because especially the assets that we deliver, like robots and automated production lines, requires our presence.
Awesome. Michael, Maciej, for the purpose of today's show, Let's assume that our viewers are Matterport service providers that have enterprise clients. They want to learn about Matterport plus SimLab Simon plus IBM Maximo, how that can help their clients so that they have a deep understanding of Matterport. We can make that assumption. I think this would be a good time, perhaps, Magic, if you tell us about IBM Maximo. And if it's easier for you to share your screen, that's fine as well.
Okay, so I will, as I already told you quite a lot about IoT, I will just skip the first slides. But as you mentioned, we are over 1,000 employees company, which is specific. We are a private company, family owned actually. We've started in 1991 last century, and we are focusing mainly on robotics, automation, process optimization for our customers, so production processes, maintenance processes, and asset management. Usually they are the production lines. As I understand, most of the Matterport users may be focused on facility management. Nevertheless, it's still assets. So whether this is a fleet assets or production assets, we still need to maintain those and take care that they are available and working on a proper levels according to some SLAs or KPIs. As IoT, we support our customers starting from product design. So even in the first stage, some of our customers show us wonderful products, which are the prototypes. So our role is to redesign these ideas, these prototypes, to become real products, which can be, which production can be automated. Next step, this is designing the production process to optimize it from the beginning for dedicated assets through the factory construction, machine building, delivering the production assets actually through the whole intralogistic, which is a little bit closer to the facility management. So automated storerooms, vaults, and automated transport based, for example, on AMRs, so automated mobile robots. So fully automated intralogistic transport, up to delivery and implementation of IT solutions. So this is what my department is responsible for, that we integrate this low-level hardware, machines, PLCs, SCADAs, with the high-level systems like ERP, financial solutions. Moreover, we offer as well the services for the asset management and support, operators training, and even deliver the workforce together with our partner for our customers. Based on that, usually there are no blank spots at our customers, and there's quite a lot of existing IT systems, solutions. Even nowadays, they are quite often like a silo solution. So our way is to build a whole ecosystem of integrated systems and solutions. Whenever it's possible, we try to use the existing systems. Wherever there is a need, we deliver our own solutions. So we've got a set of our partners, vendors, and our own systems that we can use. IBM is one of them, and Maximo system. We use the Maximo as a platform actually for asset management, that we can build the whole IT solution, data exchange, and utilize that to optimize and ensure the production processes.
Let me interrupt. Forgive me, Magic, but you know, our service providers, Matterport service providers, it's just a little bit too much detail in terms of what the company does. I think we really need to kind of stay focused for a non-tech on what is IBM Maximo. I understand the context is a robust amount of solutions that IoT offers, but let's just focus on IBM Maximo in terms of, I've never heard of it. I'm a Matterport service provider. I've never heard of IBM Maximo. What is it? Why does it matter to me and my enterprise size clients?
Simple words, this is the IT platform that can help you to understand and to have a single pane of glass. What assets do you have, where they are, how they are connected, what needs to be done to keep them running. So what works need to be done: inspections, preventive maintenance, ticketing system for breakdowns. You need to assign what assets and resources you need to perform that work. What employees, materials, do you have them? Do you have a contract to replenish your stocks, for example? Do you have the right competences on site to do that work? How it's built into the schedules, how it's related to the production plan, with all the work that you need to do for the maintenance of your existing assets.
So, Magic, let's take a mechanical, electrical, plumbing space, an MEP space. Many Matterport service providers shoot those kinds of spaces. Can you tell me a story to illustrate why why companies, enterprise-sized companies, actually need to understand all the assets that they have in that mechanical, electrical, plumbing space?
Mm-hmm. So let's assume that you're sitting at your desk and there is no power in the socket. So what do? You need to inform someone that there is a problem. Such electrician gets the information, there is a problem in Dan's office. So I need to understand and find out how the network is connected. So where the socket is connected to which transformer, where the problem, actually the root cause of the problem is. And then try to fix it as soon as possible. It can all be under the SLA that the system will notify the user, but it's already half an hour and you still don't have your power. So it needs to be solved quickly and something needs to be done there. What's more, to ensure that it will not happen next time, probably we would like to have some scheduled work, some inspections to go and check specific assets. If there is any problem, it's overheating, for example, we can automate as well and get the readouts from the voltage, heat, temperature, and system may notify us that the temperature is rising. So someone needs to go there and check what's going on.
Can you take it a little bit further? I think what I've heard is kind of two things. First is the ability to remotely see all your assets and what their status is, presumably through, for example, IoT devices, so that you know the pressure, the temperature, whether power is going to a particular socket, electrical outlet. Is there, and then something fails, so that would perhaps be the second case, and someone needs to be notified. So I'm hearing a ticketing system. Can you speak a little bit about predictive in terms of how IBM Maximo meets mechanical, electrical, plumbing? Maybe describe it as a story.
So when we want to move to from the reactive to the predictive maintenance, that's where we are based on the data that we can get from the IoT devices, from regular inspections and readouts, which can be entered manually as well to the system by the inspector. And based on that information, we can use them to trigger the business rules, which tells us that whenever the temperature is going above some level, we need to do something. Right now, with more and more data, because we are collecting a lot of data, which is in most cases unused. A lot of that we don't actually know, or our customers don't know what to do with all that data. Pumping that into the database and into the models, which are maybe AI supported, we can correlate different aspects, different data together to predict the failure dates even. So we can not only can do the typical preventive maintenance or predictive, but even to up to prescriptive maintenance, which based on those models, we predict the failure date of a specific asset based on the whole history that we gather into one place. So this is when we are talking about the maintenance and actually doing work on our assets and assuring that they are working properly. But the first leg, before we start that, we need to build this digital twin, which consists of all the information we can gather. And in this space, we use Maximo as a central system to integrate all of the data. So as you mentioned, for example, this power outlet and the problem. Where do we have the drawings, the diagrams, how it's connected, the whole network. So this is as well the space when we can integrate all that information into one place. We don't have to copy that. So this is not a master system to store all that data, but we link it as we did it with the Simon, that we just making the connections and allow users to switch between the systems, between the solutions, find the right documentation, find the right view and information at their hand.
So, so Magic is part of that predictive analytics having a lot of historic data regarding that in this example, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing space? Or is the predictive analytics, is that really based on manufacturers' information?
No, usually we start with the information that is available. So first point are the technical documentation from the manufacturers. More and more of vendors deliver already pre-trained models to be used on their devices to use such predictions. Nevertheless, it's always case by case built history by the customer. So it all starts with the basic information at the beginning, usually the regular preventive maintenance, so do the inspection every week or 300 hours of working of such asset. Then we add some additional data. We gather the historical information about the past incidents, failures, and based on that, we train our models to be better and better in predicting the future.
And the predicting of the future, the predicting of a failure, let's say of a boiler or a chiller or some other mechanical piece, perhaps it's based on its vibration, is not in a normal pattern. Is that, are we really talking about AI meets the data? Is that how that prediction is done?
Yes, although being an engineer, I'm not so easy to use the AI term here because they are mainly the mathematical models or correlation models. So we called it as an AI, but usually we take a lot of data which we can quickly calculate and find the correlations. So to find the root causes of the issues of the problems that that happened based on the information that we have. So next time we will see it coming, we can predict that probably it will end up the same way. So yes, we may call it as an AI support, but more or less this is like correlation models mainly. Okay,
so I think I've heard kind of three themes in here. There's monitoring, an overall monitoring of the space. Second, there is this manage when something perhaps fails. And third, maybe this maintain in terms of predicting. Let's take it up one level. Let me see how to ask this question. So, I'm a Matterport service provider. I now kind of have this sense of what IBM Maximo does, but I'm trying to understand it from my client's perspective because I probably wouldn't come in and describe all the features of IBM Maximo. I'd probably come in about why this stuff matters. So could you describe from the benefits standpoint? I imagine there's some time savings, money savings, and there's a way that you describe from a potential customer's perspective.
Sure. So as you already said, it's always about the money, but we can save money per se and as well time, as time is money as well. So for money savings, we can optimize the vendor lists, the purchasing processes. We can centralize the inventory and purchasing. which allows us to monitor, for example, the vendor fulfillment, the contracts, to renegotiate contracts, having all the data, actually what's the volume of our purchases, what's the lead time, and negotiate those. We can optimize the storerooms themselves, knowing which spare parts are used for which assets, because the technical documentation usually has a whole bill of materials, but which parts actually do we use? How often? What's the rotation? How many of them we need to keep in the store to keep our business running? And saving the time means that I have information at the right moment, delivered to the right people on the right time. So I can save much time looking for the documentation, finding the right person to do the right work, having the history of works being done, or having the strategies, the work plans actually prepared for typical works. I can save my time sending the right person equipped with the right tools and spare parts on place to fix the problem, not just to, hey, go there and look what actually happened, and then we will see what we need. Come back and we will send the right people there. Preparing the right schedules and plans for maintenance works, we can optimize them and align to our either production plan or other schedules for the facility, that what is the right time to actually perform the right work, how we can combine different works to be done at the same place or by the same team, so we do it at once, not sending them every day to do the different work. So I think this is the mainly savings. We've already mentioned the predictions. So knowing that something may fail in next week, I can do the checkup today and not have this failure at all.
So let's focus on just that one example for a moment. And again, I'm trying to think through for Matterport service provider. They may only have a sentence or three to entice the interest of their trusted client who's already using Matterport, and perhaps even Matterport plus SimLab Simon. So I want to make a statement, and then maybe you can help me further or embellish with it. So if I'm a Matterport service provider, I might say something to my enterprise client like, hey, in your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing space, do you ever have things that fail and you had no idea that that was going to happen? Yes. Oh, would you imagine that you using a solution like IBM Maximo, that it can actually predict when those failures are going to happen? Would that save you a lot of money, being able to avoid a potential failure of an important infrastructure item? We were talking earlier about the power going out. So if power goes out, presumably your productivity of every employee in the space just stops. The heating going out and having the building too hot or too cold is going to dramatically affect your building. So being able to let me actually try it again, is to say, do you have things in the mechanical, electrical, plumbing space that have previously failed and as a result cost you a lot of time and money, cost you a lot of money? Yes. Now, could you imagine being able to use a platform software that lets you predict those kinds of failures in order to save the money before you have that failure? Can maybe talk on that topic a little bit more? Is that the way to explain that from a Matterport service provider to a enterprise client?
I would add to that some additional questions. For example, do you know which of your assets are the most time and cost consuming? Do you know which spare parts are actually used and how often to maintain your assets? Do you know and keep track of all the plant maintenance, and do you know when it's going on? I will share as well one example from one of our customers in utilities. When there was a power down, so they lost the power for a whole building. So first thing, automatically the generators should start. They didn't. They missed the fuel. So whose fault is that? Who was responsible to check the fuel level and make sure that in emergency case, there is enough fuel in the generators to provide the power? So they lost power for several hours, which probably your customers can calculate how much did it cost, because there were no strict lines of responsibilities, no one place when they keep track of all their assets and all things that needs to be done. So we may talk about the AI and predicting the future, but in many cases, there are much simpler scenarios and very small issues that can break the whole system down. The whole business. And keeping track of all of that in one place may help us to avoid such situations.
So saving money of potential problems before they become problems, saving money when something does fail, being able to quickly solve the problem. And I think what I heard is sometimes when problems happen, if you haven't had the inventory on hand, and in your example, the fuel level in the generator, that all these things are trackable and predictable using
Exactly, because
Maximo.
We are asked many times how to calculate the ROI of such solution. Actually, it's not so easy because we are preventing the failures. We are preventing the problems. So it's always, you may try to calculate the last failure you had at your facility, at your business, what caused it, and how much you would save by preventing that. And that's the easiest way to show how much you can save having such solutions for asset management like Maximo, for example.
Yeah, sometimes not so hard. I was at the Geo Week 2025 recently. The Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport actually talked about in their previous 12 months that their failures of equipment that failed, literally it cost them $7 million. And so I was immediately thinking, well, did they have IBM Maximo as a, predictive in order to minimize. So that one seemed like the ROI would probably be pretty easy to say, gee, in the last 12 months, we had $7 million of cost because something or more than something actually failed, and we failed to predict that it was actually going to happen.
So now it's the right moment to talk to them about asset management solutions. But before that incident, probably it would be hard to show that they really such solution can be really beneficial for them. But after such incident, it's much easier to say, hey, you could have prevented that. Should you have the asset management solution, probably it wouldn't happen. And that's how much you would save.
Yeah. So there's a pain point there that the client either has experienced or hasn't experienced yet.
Exactly.
Okay, so you started to talk a little bit about digital twins and SimLab Simon. Before we actually talk to Michael specifically about SimLab Simon, was there a piece that you wanted to talk about in terms of IBM Maximo and Aout and then tied it back to the digital twins and SimLab Simon?
No, probably it would be good to use a demo that we prepared together with Michael. So whenever you say that it's right time to show you something, then
I think this is a good time.
Happy to.
Yeah.
So if it's a good time, so let me share some screen with you again.
And while Magic, while Magic is calling up, please go ahead and share your screen. While he's sharing his screen, know that the Aout website, www.aiut.com. While we're on that subject, for the IBM Maximo, www.ibm.com/products/Maximo. And I will even at this point mention the websites for SimLab, SimLabInc.com, and specifically the microsite for SimLab Simon is at www.sim-on.com. Magic, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So this will be very briefly, as you said, just to show you some of the points, especially why and where we integrated with Matterport thanks to through the Simon solution. So this is one of our demo installations. It looks very similar as many asset management systems or other systems that we have configured with dashboards based on the business roles. So I've got a lot of KPIs here and drawings showing what's the situation. So with one throw of my eye, I can see what's going on. Is it okay or not? As my manager used to say, if it's green, go and get your coffee. If it's yellow, ask your friend to get you coffee because there's work for you. If it will be on red, forget about coffee. You don't need it anymore because there's a major problem there. So I've got a lot of lists here of the work that it's being documented, recorded in the system. But starting with the digital twin. So first of all, to understand what assets do I have, where they are, what's the information available, I will switch to one of our assets. Actually, this is a willow pump that we will see on a Simon in a moment. So I've got a lot of technical data here, basic data from the manufacturer, some of the history from my system, what's going on here. I can see all the information about the sub-assemblies, the spare parts. The system can learn by himself, for example, based on the work history, actually what spare parts I used to work on that asset. So it will build this bill of materials automatically. With new assets, it's quite easy. We've got the full documentation. Quite often, we are getting the old assets without the proper documentation in place. So such possibility to get the information automatically within the system, it's quite beneficial. I can assign some safety plans here, the hazards, precautions, logout, tagouts, procedures. I understand it's not a time here to show all of the details. I would love to show a little bit more. I can go through weeks around the Maximo showing that, but I've got the whole specification, technical specification. The documentation I've mentioned, we can have it all at the one place. It can be as well on a mobile solution, so I can get all of that on my phone or tablet as well. And what's more important, I've got all the work history, actually what work was done, what's planned on the assets, and how we can utilize that information. I will switch to the work in a moment, but before that, I will show you why we actually integrated Maximo with Simon and Matterport through Simon solution. Because as you can see, this is a lot of text data. There are documents, but for many engineers, operators, technical guys, they said, but I would like to see more visual at where can I find it, what's around, because I can see the structure that my pump is part of some bigger assets and the motor is a sub-assembly of that pump, but what's the surrounding where it's installed? And that's why we can use Matterport and Simon for that. As you can see, I can have multiple models and multiple scans attached to one asset, so I can have multiple views of this pump. So right now I'm moved automatically to the Simon and point straight to my pump. So I can see actually where it is, what's the surrounding, how it looks. Michael will show you a little bit more in a moment about Simon itself and how it looks from the Simon user point of view. But from my point of view as an asset manager, I can see all my stuff here with all my assets pointed and be able to go back to all that information that's stored within Maximo, with the documentation, some instructions, everything in one place. So from my point of view as a guy who's responsible for implementing such solutions, it doesn't really matter how many IT systems we will use. I have one place with my assets database that I can integrate all of that information, all of the different systems to do that. When I want to look into the specific information about the work, because this is as well the place where I can save quite a lot of time, are the automated work order generators. Because based on the business rules, whether it's predictive, preventive, or using the AI, we predict the failure. The system can automatically get all the information into one place, attach a proper job plan. This work order, actually, I'm showing to you, was generated automatically by the system. So no user interaction before the time that we can say it right now. So I've got the whole instruction, what needs to be done, what qualifications I need, employees I need to perform such work, whether are there any materials I need.
So excuse me, Magic, I think really, again, for the purpose of Matterport service providers, I think we've probably have made the point that IBM Maximo could make your eyes glaze over with the user interface design. And I think we're about to jump in to say we can take that same information and Michael, how about you pick up, if you don't mind, Magic, let Michael pick up and talk about the user experience. I think that would be helpful for Matterport service provider to say, okay, all that technical data of the way it was presented that makes my eyes glaze over, here's a different way. It's the same information, just presented differently. Michael?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Thank you, Maciej. And yes, imagine the situation that there is a customer and have the IBM Maximo in some big factory, for example, and have 100,000 different assets, yeah? And some new or some not so much experienced guys comes up into the work and need to find, okay, some pump is broken, yeah? And in the space we have some 100 pumps, yeah? And adding to our solution into the Maximo, where is the everything inside in some very technical and detailed point of view, he can very easily find and locate the particular asset, the particular pump into the space, if there is, of course, the Matterport scan. And it is also a good opportunity for the Matterport service providers to expand their own business, yeah, because even if somebody have right now the Maximo, they can come there. Okay, you have Maximo, great. Do you have the Matterport scan? Oh no, what is the Matterport? This is digital twin where you can very easily find your asset from the Maximo inside the digital twin.
So Michael, again, let's assume our audience, Matterport service providers, totally intimate. Our audience, totally intimate with Matterport. So let's think about this is the how, and this maybe even to some extent familiar with SimLab Simon. Let's take it to the next extent in terms of where IBM Maximo plugs into that equation. Matterport plus SimLab Simon. Now let's see how plus IBM Maximo fits in.
Yeah, I can show maybe how it's work in our software, and I will share my screen and show you the demo. Okay, I hope you're seeing my screen right now, and I'm going from the dashboard into the 3D space and opening the full screen because that's a little bit better view. And okay, and we have here our software with the layer of the IoT devices, which is also part of the SimLab software, but it's not today case. I'm only mentioning about the possibility to connecting the IoT devices and have it into the 3D space. But our main goal right now is the assets. And for example, we have such kind of this is the ventilation centrals inside some food factory where we have some assets, yeah, and we know that this manometer, for example, is the part of the also existing into the IBM Maximo infrastructure, and we can add the tag on top of that with the name, with the all information about that, and we can editing. And here we have the place where we can add the Maximo link on top of that. And we have the two options. We can add from the existing, because after we connecting into the Maximo, we can importing all the links inside the Simon and then pick it from the previously imported links, or adding the new one where we have generated the the tree, which is representing the structure from the IBM Maximo side. Yeah. In this particular case, I see this one is already linked, and I can go back from the adding from the existing, and I have here somewhere, okay, this one, and I'm click it, add it, save changes, and right now I have it connected between our software into the IBM Maximo, where I can very easily and very quickly go logged into the Maximo site, and I have all information about the Manymeter or some gauge inside the IBM Maximo, where I have much more information than only this what we have in the Simon site. And we have the same situation for many other different assets, like, for example, some voltage elements where we have also the possibility to go inside to the Maximo and see the details accordingly to the particular asset. Yeah.
So
Michał, I think that this might be as well a nice scenario that Dan was asking, if you could go through this panel that you've been before, because that's when we start from the Matterport scan. So we've got our 3D visualization, but we need to know more about our assets. So thanks to Simon, I can get automatically the IoT readouts. I can get the basic documentation, but if you'd like to see, so what's the history of that asset actually? How long, when it was installed, by whom, whether it's under warranty, what spare parts are needed to work on that. That's the moment when we can use Maximo for that.
And in opposite way as well, yeah. If we have some everything into the Maximo, we can also go to the Simon and see the location in the real world. Yeah, it's combining together to give the customer or the user the better experience and much more intuitive way to find the information that are necessary for them. I'm correct, Maciej?
That's true.
all right, so
Okay.
okay, I'm going to represent Matterport service providers here and see if I can have a little takeaway here. So, in fact, first I want to ask you, Michael, is okay. So the client is already using Matterport. The customer, perhaps let's talk the scenario, already has IBM Maximo. How hard is it to bring the IBM Maximo assets into a Matterport digital twin using SimLab Simon? What's that process look like?
Right now, the process looks like that we need to have the representation of the asset inside the Simon. Yeah, for that you need to create the asset into the Simon site and then link it with the same representative asset into the IBM Maximo site, as I was showing you a couple of minutes ago. Yeah.
So is that sort of like in the Matterport tagging experience where you've added a tag to each of the assets?
Yeah, very similar way.
SimLab Simon tags. Stay with me here for a second. So the tags, so we go through that mechanical, electrical, plumbing space. We add tags within SimLab Simon, then bring in the IBM Maximo, and then make the link each of the assets. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's exactly that kind of way, but it's the first phase of our integration. We thinking about the integration a little bit deeper into some nearest future, that everything from the IBM Maximo can be imported automatically into the Simon, and only one thing is to pick the already imported asset from the Maximo and put it into the place into the 3D space. It's also very similar, like in the tagging into the Matterport, that if you have some tags already created in the Matter tags, the only one thing is it's the plus of the position into the 3D space, and that's
okay. So just for my clarification, let me just see if I understand this. Is what's coming soon is the ability to import all the IBM Maximo assets into a Matterport space through SimLab Simon. And the only thing that needs to be done then is to drag the pin location to the correct asset.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, great. Is there, today is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. Is there a timing that you can give us for that import feature?
We are counting that will be in some up to 2 months from now. This
Okay.
kind of possibility.
March, so April, May. So let's call it
Something like
summer 2025. The ability to just implement to import the IBM Maximo experience within a Matterport space using SimLab Simon. Magic, is that talk about your services as it relates to IoT in terms of where you fit in what Michael was just describing in those two phases, how it happens today and how it happens in the future.
First of all, we started with this first functionality to prove that it's working, and we usually would like to develop our solutions based on the customer requirements. So the most what Michael already said is on our list because we can see that it's needed on the market. Nevertheless, we've got quite a few other ideas because I would like to see my work orders, my tickets as well in Matterport 3D scan. Next thing would be a possibility to raise tickets and create work orders straight from the scan, so I can pick up the asset on a 3D scan and raise ticket automatically straight from there. And so then we may use this visualization, 3D visualization, as my asset structure interface for the user. So this may become the main interface for the user to see it in a visual way. Where are the problems? Record new problems to get all the data straight in Simon.
So I think part of what I'm hearing is that let's say a facilities management person, a facilities manager, who is using IBM Maximo may be totally comfortable with the dashboard that you showed, Magic. But for the rest of the world, who is his visual and it doesn't have the knowledge of that minutia, that it may be way easier to look at a visual container of the content, which is Matterport, that three-dimensional model, and that it is SimLab Simon layer on top of Matterport that enables that to be possible. So you kind of have the best of two worlds. If you want the IBM Maximo dashboard, you get that. And if you'd rather simplify it so anyone, anywhere in your organization can be looking at the facilities, you can present that as a Matterport digital twin.
That was the
Michael, is that fair to say?
Yeah, that was the main idea behind this integration. Because thanks to that, as you mentioned, we add this visual aid to Maximo, which has a lot of data, which supports the business processes. From the other way, we add some life of the processes to the Matterport scans, because it's not just to show you the fixed state where everything is, but we add this life behind it. So all this work history, all these business processes, people responsible for each asset, so they know what to do, where it is, how it connects and relates to another. So in my opinion, both of the worlds will benefit from that. That will get, as you mentioned, the best of the breed in both cases.
Mm-hmm. And Michael, I was asked if you agree with that. I just imagine the answer is yes, is that anyone who wants to use the Matterport tour to visually see where their assets are located, it sounds like it'd be way easier. Maybe what I would share is just a little metaphor. I had some friends that were starting a restaurant and they were showing me their blueprints, and I had no idea what I was looking at. But show me a CAD model of what that looks like, or the equivalent of a Matterport tour that I can walk through the space. That's what we're talking about for the people for the rest of us who need a visual way to experience a space. Matterport plus SimLab Simon enables all that data that's in that IBM Maximo database to be presented visually to actually understand it visually. Badly said. Maybe you want to take it from there, Michael.
I don't know what I can add because you fulfilled the topic very loud and clearly, and I'm completely 100% agree with you and Maciej. Because the visual representative and the interface that you can see the exact place is in my opinion also the best way how we can present the location of the data. It's great, yeah, in my opinion as well.
Thank you. So when you showed that space, I think you said that was a food processing factory.
That was the ventilation centrals in the food processing factory. Yeah, that was the air changing place with the filters and everything, because there was some I think this is the salad factory where is also some gases inside the boxes and that need to be replacing the air very English word I'm missing very rapidly. Yeah.
I totally get it. I could imagine though a facility like that could easily be forgive me, I'm going to say it in an American way, 500,000 square feet, a huge factory. Seems like AR fits in here somewhere of wayfinding. Is that a feature of SimLab, Simon?
Not yet, but we are also working on that we can also make some wayfinding into the place, yeah, using your mobile phone, for example, where you're opening the mobile application and synchronizing the scan with your exact location, and then into the screen of the mobile phone, the wayfinding to the asset, for example, from the Maximo as well. It will be possible, and also to adding some workflows on top of that. If you are going inside that, you can see what next step you need to be done to, for example, fix the problem. Yeah, if the changing the pressure and then open or close some valve, and the next step and next step and next step. Yeah, it's also in our focusing right now into the development sector. Yeah.
So I think I heard two things on AR coming. One is the wayfinding. So I think in the example where Magic said the equipment that failed automatically generated a ticket, and that might, let's say, if it went to the air handler specialist that needs to deal with that particular problem, she may not know in that ginormous factory which air handler just failed. But coming at some point with SimLab Simon is wayfinding, so that field tech looking at their smartphone would just follow the yellow brick road, to follow the path that's showing how to get to the air handler that has failed.
Exactly.
And then second, I think what I heard is that if that air handler manufacturer or that air handler field tech service had an AR feature that overlaid the air handler, could show instructions on actually what needs to happen. So if it was a new feature, it was a new service problem and the tech wasn't familiar with it, the AR might actually help facilitate making the fix in the field rather than having to make calls to someone else to say, hey, I can't figure this out.
Yeah, but this procedure, the instruction will be possible to add from our side. Yeah, it's some senior engineer can make the instruction. Yeah, okay, if something is wrong, you need to check this. If the pressure is low, you need to open this valve, and so on. Yeah, that will be everything can be created inside our software. That not need to be only limited to the manufacturer that allows such kind of the instruction. It can be also added by some engineering technical responsible person into the customer side.
Was I hearing a third feature of AR, which is live support overlay from a subject matter expert that could be overlaying AR to actually show how to fix the problem?
We are also thinking about that, but it will be, I think, in next phase after the AR will come.
Okay, so
First two that will be the workflows supporting the AR and the wayfinding to the place where the problem is.
okay,
Or not even problem, because the AR can be also be useful for the wayfinding in some, I don't know, shopping mall or some other kind of
yeah. Let's stay focused on the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, the manufacturing, warehousing, warehouses, manufacturing. Today, again, is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. Michael, you're the product owner, the product manager. What's the timing on AR wayfinding?
Of AR wayfinding, it will be 1 quarter. Also somewhere in the summer that will be appearing in our site.
Summer 2025.
Yeah.
Before we say bye, we're visiting with Matterport service providers. We've had a chance to hear about IBM Maximo, SimLab Simon, the combination of Matterport, SimLab Simon, IBM Maximo. I think even to add yet another integration, which would be IoT, in order to help facilitate this from a systems integrator standpoint, IT, if that's the correct way to say it, Magic.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So what would be the takeaways from today's show for a Matterport service provider that is intimate with Matterport, is going to perhaps go back and look at some of the WGAN TV shows about SimLab, Simon, wgAN.info/SimLab on WGAN. I'm just trying to understand what the takeaways. I have trusted relationships with clients where I've scanned MEP spaces, mechanical, electrical, plumbing spaces. I've scanned warehouses. I've scanned manufacturing facilities, large spaces. What's the takeaway? And I have trusted clients. What's the takeaway from each of your perspective of today's show that Matterport service provider, if you can only maybe tell them 30 seconds worth to summarize, what would that be, Magic?
So I would say if you already have the Matterport scan, let's use it to support your business processes. Let's use it to support the work that needs to be done, to integrate it with the digital twin, or use it to build a digital twin based on that visualization model. Because the full digital twin, actually, it's not just the digital model that we are having, but it's related with the processes, with the business rules that we are using on our business.
Michael?
Yeah, exactly, Maciej. The digital twin need to believe. Yeah, it's not only the model, which is okay. We have a model, and but nobody is using it because it's only is. Yeah, it's need to believe, and it need to be added on top of the model the information from the IoT sensors, the information from the asset database, some other features that will be very useful for daily operating of the facility, for the facility manager, for the technical operation staff, for the even some cleaning ladies or cleaning services. Yeah, where is also possibility to use the digital scan on top of that, the data from for example, the IBM Maximo.
And I'd add one line for Matterport service providers. Think of Matterport tours as a tool, and perhaps think of Matterport plus SimLab Simon plus IBM Maximo as a solution that helps monitor, manage, and predict in order to save lots of money and save lots of time. And that's, I would say, is the Maximo vision for asset management that we were trying to tie all this together. Magic, thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks for the invitation. It was a pleasure to visit your TV.
Thank you. And Michael, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Dan. That was a pleasure, like always. It's not the first time. We know each other a little bit. And thank you for the whole audience for today's show. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've been visiting with SimLab Simon product owner and project manager, Mikhail Shopa, and Ayut Asset Management Solutions Manager of Digital Industrial Transformation, Magic Gusek. I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum, and you've been watching WGAN TV live at 5.